Who are you?
So I'm Chris Urmson. I'm the director of the self-driving car project at Google.
And when people think of self-driving cars, they think, oh my gosh, like, is this really going to work? So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, so what's really exciting is that the technology is advancing very rapidly. And what we're seeing is that while people have kind of a reasonable questions about is this possible, it seems very kind of George Jetson-y, that once they experience it, their opinion changes immediately, right? And it goes from, could this really happen, to this is happening and I want it.
I was with Congressman Johnson this morning from Ohio, and he was talking about how he had experienced the car in Washington, D.C., and he said he was a little scared at first because, here come the crazy taxis and bam, and the car works. What would you say to folks about being hesitant about the technology?
Well, like I said, I think that's reasonable, right? To be hesitant, anything new, you want to consider it, you want to think reasonably about it. But once you try it, and once you realize how much safer you can be in these vehicles, the fact that all of us who really desperately want to be checking our cell phones but don't because we're supposed to be driving, can now actually do the things in the car we want to be doing anyway. And the fact that we can give mobility to people who don't otherwise have it, really, it's kind of amazing bit of technology.
Yeah, let's expand on that. This really does give more options. And so talk a little bit about that. And then I want to talk about sort of how Google sort of always leaps sort of regulatory and all these other barriers to kind of go to the consumer. So let's talk first about giving people a wider option.
Right. I think the opportunity to provide mobility to everybody is a huge part of the story. So, Steve Mann, who was one of the early folks to try one of our cars, he's an incredibly capable guy who just happens to be blind. And that means for him to get from home to work every day takes 2 or 3 hours when it really should take like 30 minutes. Right? And that's because he has to patchwork together public transit or ask friends for rides or whatever. And so allowing him to get where he's going in life without having to, resort to kind of what is a somewhat, for him at least, non-functional transportation system is amazingly empowering.
So Google, just, everybody loves Google because you are creative and you sort of push the boundaries of, what can be and giving yourself time to think about this. How long has the Google car been sort of a conception, and how long did it take to make it, well, we're going to call it reality?
Sure. So we started the project at Google about 6 years ago. So before that, I was here in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon on the faculty, and then got recruited to come out and join and head up engineering for the team out there. And we spent the first couple of years trying to convince ourselves that this could be reality, right? Because we had seen what had happened with the DARPA Grand Challenge before, very exciting stuff, but that's different than out in the real world with real drivers doing whatever they happen to be doing. So we went through 2 years, we kind of proved ourselves that could actually work. We started to work on something that would drive on the freeways, and we got to a point where it was really quite a compelling product, but we realized that was falling short of our mission of improving people's lives by transforming mobility. And over the last couple of years, we've really focused on having the car drive everywhere, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that today.
Well, thank you. Any last words for folks as they are thinking about what can be and what your mindset is when you think about what can be?
I think the opportunity here is limitless, right? When you look back 125 years ago to when the automobile was invented, right, it really had just a profound impact on society for good. And now we have the opportunity to kind of take a next step with that and give everyone mobility in a way that, we haven't been able to over the past. So just incredibly enthusiastic, incredibly optimistic, and really looking forward to the next decade. It's going to be exciting.
Okay, so I just have to ask one more question because
Sure.
there's just so many. So, like, how do you plan on getting this thing out in production? I mean, the Google car, like, will we see Google dealerships, or like, what's the thought process?
So right now we're really focused on getting the technology to work, but we really, it makes sense to partner, right? So it turns out that the folks that are in the automotive industry have been there for 100 years, and they have won some hard-fought knowledge, right? And they know how to make things. They know, like, a modern car is a miracle. The fact that, whether it's 40 degrees below or 40 degrees above, you can turn it on and it just goes, right, every day, right? The fact that they can produce this incredibly complicated thing for the masses, right? So partnering with the right folks that share this vision for improving people's lives is really, the right way to go.